So back to demolition. If you recall, there was a character in the last video that was about the demolition of the cabin down to the point where I got the tile removed from the floor. And that character plays a significant role in this next upcoming video that I'm going to show you right now that furthers that demolition process. So we got to the tile floor. I'm going to pick up from there and show you the rest of it. I was able to get the plans out to the engineers, both the cabin and garage engineers, to a soils engineer, and to a fabricator who can do certified welds because the county won't let me do my own welding. All that stuff's out to them. So now I can get back and I'll do some editing once I get this started. I'm here doing other work today, which I'll cover in future videos. But let's get started and I'll show you where that rat ends up in this video. So in the previous video, which I'll link above and in the description below, we took down 5 different layers that resulted in the floor being the last layer, and that was the tile, which was really hard to take out. This is some vinyl composite or wooden vinyl flooring up in the loft that was really easy to remove, and just the last little bit of flooring. So I'm taking that out before we start the next layer. This flooring was in pretty good shape, and we figured we'd use it in our little home away from home job site shed. So we're just going to set it aside for now, and when we get into that shed next and work on it, we'll add the floor there. It'll just be easier to sweep out and keep clean, and it looks kind of nice. All right, next layer is windows. The windows on this place are pretty much all unique. And so, like, for instance, this one seems to be held together by about 3 screws, and it should probably come out pretty easily. There's about a dozen or so windows. There's a couple that are custom made that are kind of hand built in there that I think will be a little bit more challenging. But now it's kind of the point of no return. If there hasn't been one yet, this is definitely the point of no return, because we're going to open up the structure, take the doors and windows out, and it'll just be free and open. We've got the floor out. We're down to just a few more layers. Today's windows, we're going to save them. I think we'll use them for possibly sort of a greenhouse structure, or we can find a home for them. I think these are something that people could reuse. So this loft is interesting that the rodents, which have pretty much destroyed this cabin, are actually being helpful now, because they're picking up all the little stray bits of insulation that are left, and they're making nests in here, which is just consolidating our little remainder. So each of these windows kind of presented a puzzle because they were all built differently. And this one had sort of a clear grain wood buck that came out, and then it was held captive to the wall with sort of a galvanized angle that was just nailed and glued like crazy. And I don't know what they used as adhesive, but it was gooey and it was really hard to get off. Once I got it to peel off the house wrap, then I was able to kind of twist the buck in the window and pull it out. But it took some time. Each window was sort of a puzzle to figure out. Some of them were similar to one another, but there were, I think, 13 different windows and probably 6 different ways to hook them up. The next window had a nice vinyl flange and was held together with yet a whole lot more glue and little nails all the way around. So again, a different way to do it. This one is in really good shape. All right, well, day one, we were able to get, I think, 9 out of 12 windows. There's a couple skylights left, but we got the windows out. Kind of failing weather today. It's going to get rainier, so we'll just sort of load as we go, and then as soon as it starts to rain, we'll head out. But we were able to unload the tile, get that all done, so the tile is completely finished, which is awesome. And now we've got the windows. They're coming out pretty well. I think somebody can find a home for these, hopefully. And so we'll bring them to the sort of a resource place that reuses materials and get this loaded up and out of here today. This week, I'm going to see if I can get the sheet metal roof off, and there's, I think it's 5 skylights, and the skylights are sort of encapsulated by the metal, so I have to kind of do it in order. It looks like we've got about 3 days of good weather, so I'm going to spend a couple nights out here, 3 days. Karen's going to come join me tomorrow, and I'm going to see how much I can get done with these 2 layers. So sheet metal roof and skylights. A couple thoughts here. The cedar trees are gonna come out, the ones up behind the cabin there. And so I'm gonna go up first, and I'm just gonna limb that up so I've got space to stand around and work, because they've kind of grown down. They're actually touching the roof, and they have to come out because they're just looming over the house, and we're waiting until we get the house out of the way to drop them. I'm not sure what I'm gonna find underneath. There are purlins running across. That's what I don't know if you can see, but there's bolts that are holding the sheet metal down. And there's been a lot of bats and other things we've been finding, so I don't know what kind of critters we're gonna find underneath there, but I believe there's plywood sheeting, some sort of tar paper, the purlins, and then the metal roof. So I'll start up on top, get that off. There's 2 skylights on the far side. I'll get to those by taking the ridge cap off and starting to peel the metal back and sort of learn what's underneath there. I hope it's not something crazy, but we'll find out. This was a little bonus yard maintenance because the wind that we had in the last couple of weeks knocked down some limbs. So I'm cleaning these up here, and I'm going to add to that. And I'm just going to use the trailer to shuttle this over to where I'll mulch all this stuff for mulching our trees that we're planting. All right, ever so slight change of plans. The weather's getting better, and it's really easy to work on the tree from standing on a roof compared to hanging off the tree or roping up and going up there and trimming it. I know my tree friends would argue otherwise, but I'm gonna stick the extension on the pole saw and kind of limb up as far as I can reach, just because it's easy to get to. And these trees are coming out anyway, so just the more material we get out, the better. And I'm building a pretty good pile here, so I'll probably pull the chipper out and chip that up so I don't leave a pile that's just gonna sit and get wet. Every time I use that chipper, I'm amazed at how quickly it goes. That took about, I don't know, 35 minutes to put together all that stuff into a mulch pile. And every time I do it, I think it's gonna take a lot longer than that. So super nice tool. I'll put a link up in the description above to a deeper dive on the chipper if you want to learn more about that and the tractor. So the only drawback of doing this is I'm creating work for myself because this mulch pile is going to be where the garage is going to go, but it's pretty easy to move this mulch around and it condenses down pretty well. So it's cleared off the roof. I'll get the trailer ready and I can put the windows or the skylights in there as I get them cleared out and move on to the next thing. It was good to get this done so that it's not lingering around, and I'll get back to the cabin now. I was noticing as I was cleaning up here that there's unfortunately two different sizes, but thankfully I think I have both of the bits. So the roof is layered from the top all the way down, and I'm going to try to pull this little piece here. This is probably essentially the top piece, and everything else is layered underneath it. And I'm really just trying to get to this weird, it's not really a wall and it's not really a roof, it's kind of a mansard thing, but I need to get that sheet metal off around those skylights so that I can pull the skylights out. So we'll see what we get here. Looks like they're galvanized, which is great because they'll much less likely break off. There's gonna be a lot of unscrewing things. Well, I think I have this loose now. We'll see what we find underneath in terms of, oh goodness. I got to show you what I found here. This is kind of crazy. This is where the animals have been hanging out. This is kind of nuts. This is the roof raft, the ridge beam, and you can see how the animals have just chewed holes in there. There's a whole bunch of little lady beetles. They were underneath the warm metal and they're hatched and kind of flying around. We used to find those inside, so that's where they were coming from. The end there is open just because that's kind of an eave and there's no structure there, but everything else is chewed. And this is what's telling down here is, well, the more I think about it, that was a vent stack that was coming through there. I was thinking that the animals chewed through that. All right, well, that was my first piece of metal, and it went about as I expected, and thankfully none of the screws are breaking off. I just have the two different sizes to work with. So there's gonna be a lot of that, just kind of systematically going through it, and I can see how this roof is lapped now, so I'll start from the one end and kind of work my way across. Well, good morning. Yesterday I got the one window out and I'm just sort of looking over things. I'm going to go pick up Karen shortly and get to work. And I did notice one thing that is kind of funny in the building. You know, we pulled out all the insulation and there was little tufts of it in pieces all over the place that were kind of hard and tedious to get to. They're like stapled in or stuck in there. And I'm noticing that the rodents that remain are carefully scouring the whole building and building little tiny nests with what's left of it. So I'll show you that. It's kind of funny. They're doing the hard work for us. So when we stripped the walls, you can see little pieces of paper and stuff that are stapled up there, and that had little bits of insulation on it, and that's been mostly pulled out. And there's a big pile of insulation on the ground here, a little pile on the ground, and I looked up above and there's a nest up there. So all I need to do now is clean out that nest, and I've got that taken care of. And so they're doing some work for us, which is kind of nice. I did notice one other kind of disturbing thing. If you look up in that crack, there's a tail coming out of there. There had been a hole in the wall in the drywall, and somebody had filled it with spray foam, and I think the rat that was in there, you can see its tail going up into the spray foam, is encapsulated in that foam. So I think the rat tried to get out of the cavity once the spray foam was wet and got stuck. Anyway, a little bit of a rodent history. So we'll get to it today and try to get the rest of the windows out. I've got one more bay window here, which is kind of just nice as a place to store things and keep tools and stuff. So I'll keep that till the last minute. All right, it's day 3 of the roofing, and we woke up to kind of almost frost. It's a super nice day, but cold and chilly and really windy. So we're going to pretty much put away the metal we've pulled off so far, so that if it gets ugly the weather later, we can just take off. But then once it's loaded up in the trailer, we think we can kind of fit this in one trailer load, and then continue taking stuff off until we run out of time today. It's kind of interesting when we're doing this work up here, because we never know what the conditions are going to be the next day. And so pretty much every time we leave, we try to tuck it in so that it could be rainy for a week or really windy or whatever happens, because that's just what goes on this time of year. In 3 days, 2 days so far, we've got about half of the roof peeled off. We're going to leave the wood because that's going to generate its own sort of trailer load. But we'll try to see how far we can get with the rest of the metal. Pretty much everything you can see is what's left of the metal here. So I've been constantly amazed at just how much stuff was living inside this building and roof. And underneath the metal, just about everywhere, there was these lady beetles, like thousands and thousands of them. And occasionally I'd lift off a panel and I'd find bats, and the bats would fly away as I lifted up the panel. Here's one that was sort of sleeping inside of one of the nooks. I found this crazy skin that was some sort of, I don't know, like exoskeleton or shed of a lizard, it looked like. There were the nests that I already showed you. And then finally I found this rat. I don't know, it somehow got trapped in the metal and dried out inside the metal roofing between the layers. And it looks like it was completely dry and it had been there for years and years and years. And I pulled that off and set it down, and it plays a part later in our other story. All right, well, I got a beautiful day today. I'm back after we dropped off that trailer load at the recycling place for the metal, and we got a few cups of coffee out of the metal, which was kind of nice. And so today I'm going to work on, I've got 4 more window skylights to get out, the rest of the sheet metal and the entry doors, and then there's really no material left in the building other than just the structure itself. So I'm going to work on that today, and it's been kind of interesting that, like, really pretty much almost the entire demolition so far has taken place with a hammer, this flat bar, pair of gloves, and a power drill with a handful of bits. So it's pretty amazing. If you're kind of diligent and work on it carefully, you can do it. You could certainly use a bulldozer and knock it out really quick, but you'd lose the ability to recycle the materials or find homes for things. And we found homes for the windows. I'm going to bring some of the tile in that we recovered, recycled the metal, recycled all the wiring and other things. So it's kind of nice to get all these things put where they belong and use them as best we can. Anyway, I'm gonna get started today. This is one of those days that is really nice weather here. It's cold, it's probably 40 degrees, but sunny and really pleasant. And in the valley, it's fogged in, inverted, and super dreary and cold. So happy to be out here. I'm hoping to spend at least 2 days, maybe 3. The days are kind of short because it's about 9:30 or so. It takes me about that long to get out here and get set up to work. And I'll run out of daylight at 4. And so I've got some work I can do in the van this evening in the dark. I'll do the stuff that's low while everything's drying out because it's slippery up on the roof, and then I'll get up there once it dries out. The way to clean your gutters. This is a clever little magnetic mower we use to pick up the nails and other fasteners that we drop. And I realized that it creates a whole bunch of shiny metal objects, and there was somebody watching me, I could feel, and it was our pack rat. He's back again, and I recognize him because he's got a cataract in that one eye. So I had a cold night last night. It was probably just about freezing, but stayed nice and warm in the van with a bunch of covers and stuff. It does sort of incline me to get that heating system in the van put in so that we can be a little bit more comfortable in there. I was fine last night. The nights are long because it's wintertime, and last night I saw a pretty cool string of satellites as the sun was going down, just after the sun went down. I think it was one of the Starlinks or some other group of satellites dispatching another group of into the cloud out there. Today it's wet and dewy this morning, and so I'm gonna work on a couple of the doors and some of the other stuff that are kind of undercover while that flashes off and gets dry up there. And then I've just got the one set of sheeting to go with the 3 skylights in it. That'll probably be kind of tinkery around those skylights, and that'll wrap up all the metal, which is kind of nice. That's another layer. So this bay window presented a bunch of challenges. I was on my own, and it's really heavy, so I had to figure out a way to kind of slide it out and get it out of there. It was also just completely glued in with some sort of, it wasn't silicone, it was some other really, really sticky glue that was really tough to get loose, but I got it loose. And then on the inside, up in the header, there was all kinds of rat poop, or probably mouse poop. It was little seeds or something that was squirreling away just a ton of food up there, and poop. And then below, in the cavity below, there was, I don't know, easily 100 mice carcasses that somehow they must have had some poison under the sink or something, because there was tons of them. But I came up with this idea with some little 2x4s, and I kind of built myself a little stand underneath it after I cleaned up all the mess, and was able to get the window out and kind of like positioned so that we could take it out later when I had help. This window, this kind of bay window, took a lot longer than I thought. There's actually just another testament to how this building was put together so strangely. There's a second deck that must have been lower before they had the window box built on that. They had a giant hole in it here, and it was just full of carcasses of rodents and stuff. I don't know what was going on in there. And then I think you saw the header here was just packed full from some sort of little pack rat or mouse or bat or something. Just completely dense. It actually filled half of a 55-gallon garbage can, just that rafter bay. I've got the other doors loaded up in the trailer. We'll find a home for those. The skylights, all those things. We're actually being able to find people on Marketplace and stuff that are wanting those, which is great. Roofing layer.
Flash.
Boom. Or to the layer of doing the sort of framing and sheeting. And so this has been many, many layers to get to this point. And I think this layer will actually start to feel like it's coming down, because I think we'll make pretty good progress. I'm not really sure how long it's going to take and how much material it's going to generate. There's a little bit of tar paper on top, and it was super windy and stormy the last few days. And so it helped us out by tearing off most of the tar paper and blew it around, so we can clean that up. Opportunistically, we'll pull wood out and pull nails out of it and stuff. We'll go from the top down and try to do it in sort of the reverse order that it was put together. good morning. We got the first day out of the way of what I'm calling the skin and bones layer of the building, and we have a little bit of wood. We're keeping the sheeting kind of separate. We'll sort through that and keep just the really good stuff that we can use potentially for some of the other construction stuff. I will say that the galvanized nails held up really well over 30 years and are coming out pretty easily. The screws, the construction screws, tend to break off and are a little bit more rusty and stuff. So as we think about building the new one, we'll think a little bit about those fasteners for materials. Trying to keep, that's the highest part over there near the trees. And so trying to keep that the focus of things so that we kind of peel the structure away from that, from the high side down. Just because then we don't have to bring any ladders out or anything to do the work. And so far that's worked. And those trees are going to come down, so the sooner I get the cabin out of the way here, we can get him in here and he can start working on felling those trees. All right, well, day 3 of the skin and bones layer, which is the sheeting and the studs, that was about 1,000 pounds of material. And so we can fill it a lot more than that because this trailer can hold about 2,700 pounds. And so I'm kind of guessing, I originally thought it was going to be about 6 trailer loads. I think it's going to be probably still pretty close to that. So one of the last things that came out was what was the attic access. It was sort of one of those fold down ladder things. And it was great to have while we were working. It was how you accessed the loft before, but we needed to get it out because it's raining on this now, and I think that's something that somebody can reuse. So a friend Michael was here and he helped me take that out, I appreciate that help, Michael. And now I've got a funny way to get up through the rafters. Well, we got great weather this afternoon, and we've got the whole upper level now cleared out. I got all the beams off and the deck. The deck is captivated by this one wall, but that wall is tied into the roof, so I'll start working on the roof of the lower level, and everything's cleaned off to here, and then we can pull this car decking off and make a bigger skylight here. We've got our second trailer load that is, last time it was 1,000 pounds. This is probably a little bit more than that with all the longer stuff added. And we've got most of the original, the roof off the entryway and off the bathroom. So that all came out. And then the floor deck up above there's nothing other than the floor deck from the loft. And we've got one intrepid survivor in here. If I can find him, he's a pack rat who has set up shop in this top, and he's collecting all of here he is. He's collected all of the fiberglass pieces that are sitting around and stashed them in his corner. And we also found a dried rat up on the roof the other day, and he's even packed that up into his little cage as a friend. I can see its little claw sitting out there. So we will, out of deference to him, leave this little room till the very last moment and then take it out. One interesting thing, there was this, when looked in this direction, this is the old wall, and that's where the graffiti is. And there had been a fireplace down here in one of the old photos, and this is one of those photos we couldn't figure out. And I looked up in the ceiling the other day and I noticed that there had been some sort of small fire around the chimney of it at some point, and then they blocked in where the hole for the chimney was. So definitely where the fireplace was, which means there probably is going to be a piece of concrete underneath here when we get down below. All right, well, if you measure progress in terms of loads, this is going to be the 4th load of material in the trailer to get hauled out from the framing, the skin and bones portion of this. And we were supposed to have something like 6 inches of rain in the last few days. We ended up having about probably 1.5 inches or 2. So it's been rainy and wet. Building's kind of soggy, but we're supposed to get three days now of really good weather, and I'm see if we can't get the next 3 loads, which I'm guessing it's like 6 to 7 loads to get the whole thing scraped off. And so that is down to the flat deck. And so I'm gonna get started on that today. I'll work on the roof today to start with. Karen's gonna join me tomorrow, and we'll just keep knocking it down. And I'm just back to really just gloves, crowbar, and hammer is most of what I need. That and the big Burke bar, which is that's the really effective one. All right, so we're on to day 5, and quick little story. We've been saving this little corner here because that's where the rat that was collecting all the little bits of fiberglass and everything was staying. And I went to unload the trailer this morning in the dark, practically in the dark, and I started unloading the trailer, and there was a little pile of fiberglass in the trailer. Turns out the rat went on an expedition with me in the trailer and is now at the landfill on vacation. And so we know this is clear now, so we can tear this down in any order without concerning ourselves with where the rat is. And I think that rat has a new home. There's really no roof structure left. I've got to pull the deck off the kitchen. I'm gonna work on that first, because then that gets 1 or 2 of the main structural beams that need to come down out of the way. And then everything is down to ground level, and then we can knock the walls down really pretty quickly. They started coming down yesterday, and as I was filling up the trailer, as it was getting dark, I couldn't see very well, but I was just knocking out all the blocking and everything, so there's not a whole lot of structure left to the wall. All right, so all demolition films show like the Wreck-It Room kind of style thing, and so Karen's going to do the demonstration of that for us here.
All right, which one do you? Oh shit!
All right, we're up to day 6, and we've brought in a whole bunch of natural light in this kind of open floor plan. Yesterday, we actually didn't generate almost any material to the trailer because we were able to salvage a whole lot of the big timber that was hanging up in here, and that's all out now. And we also, most of the framing that we took out was in pretty good shape, so we knocked all the nails out, and we're staging all that over under cover so that we can use that for form wood and stuff when we're doing the construction on the new place. We're gonna bring back a load of what was the decking up above me here and try to find a home for that. That's actually kind of nice car decking that's pretty thick, and we'll be able to reuse that. And I will say it's been kind of fun doing this part. It's physical, but it's not super hard. We're outside and it's amazingly good weather. This is, I think, very close to the shortest day of the year. And it's 7:30 right now and the sun's just coming up, and we will be putting things away at probably 4, getting close to dark. So it's a really short window to work with, but we've got really good weather today. It's supposed to get rainy again, so we're gonna do the best we can to really clean up. All right, so we've probably been at it about 2 or 2.5 hours. We're making really good progress. There's one thing I'll note here. It's kind of interesting. There was a door framed in here, right where the trees we need to remove are. And maybe they had some idea of it would kind of make sense because you had the bathroom on this side and the kitchen over here. So it could have been they were thinking of like a mud room or something. And anyway, so I'm going to pull this wall in towards me because I don't want it to. It starts to drop off on the other side over there, and so I'll pull it in here and then bust it up on the floor. It's kind of easier for me to sort of half break up the wall and then tear it apart on the floor. It's turning out, and I'll pop the camera off and show you a couple other things here. So they had framed. We got this front part opened up, and you can see 2 posts here, and I think they had an entryway here at some point. So you would have walked in from out here under sort of a little cover. And then that's been changed over, and all these floors, they just scabbed on little pieces of floor. In this case, they just kind of built it out over the deck with a bunch of gaps in it. And some of these gaps, like this gap was open underneath the flooring, and that was one of the very biggest places that rodents got in. There's another spot over here in the bathroom. So you can see there's decking here that they built the bathroom over, and then they added on a little bit here to make it big enough for the bathroom. And in doing so, they left this giant hole under the tub. And so that's where everything was getting in behind the shower and the tub. All right, it's day 7, and this will be the 6th load, and I think it's going to be between 6 and 7 loads is what I had predicted to get the structure off. You can really see the old cabin, the little tiny cabin that was there to start with, and I'll show you some pictures overlaid here of the cabin photograph that we had. And that's why it looked so different, is it had slightly different windows and a different shape. But they retained that and then built everything around it. And so I'm going to continue working today. I've got just probably a pretty broken day. It's sunny right now, but it rained several inches last night. It was super windy. There was a lot of downed trees, and it's kind of a mess on the drive out. And they're calling for an atmospheric river, so really heavy rain tonight. So I'm going to tuck in today. We're traveling for the holidays, and I'm hoping to get the cabin done before we go. That's just kind of a goal. And so I'll see what I can get done today. I'm on my own today. I'm going to load the trailer up and do basically one full trailer load and get out of here before that storm comes in. All right, so it's been about 3 hours since I got started, and I've made really good progress. I got the whole wall out here. This little, what was the stoop of the big picture window is actually really useful for pulling out nails. So I'm gonna keep this as sort of a workbench until one of the last things, I may even leave it up until we're all done. I've been able to get all the wood over there you see stood up is just drying out, and it's getting pretty nice today. It's breezy and it's pretty good weather, and so things are drying out, the deck's getting dried out. And so I'll stack all that back into where we're storing it. And you might ask yourself, well, why don't you just get an excavator and just knock all this over really fast and be dramatic with it? And while that would be really fun, when you think about it, the little bit of effort I spend on each 2x6 probably saves us like $7 or $8 for a new 2x6. Plus we don't have to haul it to the landfill. Plus we don't have to cut down a new one and bring it back when we do form work for the concrete foundation for the new place. So I think there's sort of a triple win by salvaging the wood here, using it, and we may even sort of build one foundation and then switch it out and build the other foundation, because I think we can probably do that and kind of reuse that wood again. So it's just the way we're choosing to do it. It's a little bit more tedious. I'm actually kind of enjoying just kind of moving through it and making good progress today. Well, I'm running out of light. It's about 4:45 on one of the shortest days of the year. I got everything all covered back up for the rain. I got my friend out in the meadow. I don't know if you can see him. He's been browsing out there all day while I've been working. And I got the whole front of the building is gone now, all the way around. I got this corner all taken care of. And then most importantly, I got the roof where the nest from the pack rat and everything had been. I got that roof all taken out and all removed. So now I just have these walls, and that'll go pretty quickly. I had, this is all the wood that I salvaged, and I'm gonna stack it up on the trailer and just pull it around and drop it off in our storage on the way out. It's been drying out today, so it should be pretty dry. So I got a respectable amount of trailer filled up. This is not as heavy or as big as some of the loads, but it's certainly worth dropping off. So that's day 7 and load 5 of the trailer. So I have one load probably to go, and I'm not sure if I have 6 or 5. All right, so I had predicted 6 or 7 loads of framing material, and we did our 7th load the other day, and kind of ran into this funny circumstance where it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had just a little bit more, but we didn't have enough space in the trailer. And if we took the load in and dumped it off and came back, it was going to be dark. So we took that load in, went home, and came back today, and we'll get our 8th load. So I was close, but we'll get our 8th load loaded up. So now that we've got all the material out of the way from the cabin, we'll start working on the lower level. And then I'm going to divert a little bit because we've got 2 things that the permit's going to hang up on if we don't get them done. One of them was getting these trees down, and we had to get the cabin out of the way first so we can get the trees. We've got some good weather coming in the next week, so I might let him know, the guy that's going to cut those down, and see if he can come out and help with that. And that'll be a big project once those go down. And then we've got to do some work on the septic field. They want us to increase the capacity of the septic field, even though it's been here for 20 years and works fine for this size house. But because it was never permitted, they're treating it like it's a new septic field. And so we have to both dig up what's there enough to show that what it is so they can kind of inspect it. And then we'll probably have to double the capacity of it. But we're going to have them test the soils and see if it's actually doubled or if it's some increment in between there. But we've got to learn that, get those 2 things done, because when the permits are all complete, those 2 things are going to hang it up. So we'll get the trees out, work on the septic field, but now we've got the material out of the way from the cabin to do that. $1979. How awesome is that?
To thank them, whoever did that. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Sit it in the sun.
Oh, cool. And there's
what else?
good luck money in here.
Oh my gosh.
Some change, obviously from the same time. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome that it's about the last wall too.
It's the last corner. All right, so we're down to the very last wall, and if we were still living in Boulder, Colorado, we would be bound by all these historical rules and regulations about a remodel versus a rebuild. And so what they do in Boulder is they would leave this wall standing and call the whole thing a remodel. We're gonna actually tear it down. We have other rules that are silly, but we're gonna drop this one. That is the last little piece in the corner. The little corner had like a time capsule in it that was from 1979. It was some newspapers and some coins. I think it's a good luck thing to put some coins in the wall when you build something. And they'd rolled up some newspapers, so they're drying out. They were soaked, but it'd be kind of neat to look over those from 1979 and see what's in there. And actually, when you think about it, that's just under 50 years. And I think 50 years starts to be one of the cutoffs where you start to look at historical stuff. So if we were bound by some sort of historical preservation, which we're not, we might start getting close to that. So timely, but we'll drop this last wall and then move on and move upward. Well, that was supposed to be the dramatic finish, but there's sheeting that goes down underneath and ties the wall up. So I'm gonna have to pull the deck out, which we were gonna do anyway, but it's not gonna be as dramatic. That was the dramatic part.